radio. Radical radio.
You are now tuned in to Radical Radio. Oh, murder, that's you?
I'm me. I do what I want and I move how I want cause I'm me. And I'm not gonna act like I'm anyone else cause I'm me. The one that impressed you, the one that's the best, that's me. I'm me. I do what I want and I move how I want cause I'm me. And I'm not gonna act like I'm anyone else cause I'm me. The one that impressed you, the one that's the best, that's me. I'm me. Can't associate with no fools. I'm my own version of cool. I'm brave and I'm bold. All that hating is getting old. They know they can't compete. They know they ain't like me. I know that I'm worth it. I know I got a purpose. I'm me. I do what I want and I move how I want cause I'm me. And I'm not gonna act like I'm anyone else cause I'm me. The one that impressed you, the one that's the best, that's me.
You are now tuned in to Radical Radio.
I'm my own version of cool. All that hate is getting old. They know they ain't like me. I know that I'm worth it. I know I got a purpose. I'm me.
That's radical. Living unapologetically bold and purposely authentic.
What's good, y'all? As y'all can tell, tonight is the night. It is Radical Radio time. I want to thank you guys for joining us here on YouTube. Shout out to all my YouTube subscribers. Shout out to those that are with us for the first time. I want to thank you for rocking with your girl, Coach L, on Radical Radio. For those of you that are new and don't know, Radical Radio is a brand that wants you to understand that it's okay to be unapologetically bold and purposely authentic in the very thing that God has called you to do. As a spiritual life coach, I decided that, it was only best for me to go to God and ask God, listen, if there's some things that you have for me to do, how do you want me to do it? And, in asking God what he wants from me, he responded and he let me know it's okay to be you. I just need you to simply be you. And that's the radical person that you are. Coach L is radical for Jesus first and foremost. I work for Jesus LLC. I don't work for nobody else. Everything that I do is a ministry, from Radical Radio to Radical Life Coaching to Radical Eyewear. Everything is radical, but at the end of the day, it's all being radical for Jesus and allowing God to move in my life the way that he has planned to move in my life and surrendering to that plan. So again, thank you guys for joining us. Radical Radio, we have guests that come on and they share their radical testimonies in the most transparent way in their own words. We are very diligent on making sure that we do not have to judge a book by its cover because everybody has a story to share. So we allow our guests to come on in their own way and to be able to share their testimonies of resilience, transparency, overcoming, survival, entrepreneurship, whatever it is. So if you do have a brand that you would like to promote, you can promote on Radical Radio. We will go ahead and promote via commercial as well as promoting your brand on a weekly basis. We are doing a bonus series with the North Chicago think tank founder, William Coleman. Every other Wednesday, we're here 8 Eastern time. And we're talking about some radical things that you can do in your community to change your community. So that's another collaboration that we do have here on Radical Radio. But I want to get into this. I do want to give a shout out to my super producer, Maxi. Maxi, thank you for everything that you do. I could not do this without you. You have held me down and been there with me since the beginning of this. So I definitely thank you for rocking with your girl. For those that don't know, Maxi does have a book coming out February 14th, which is Valentine's Day. So we're going to wrap up. I'm going to give some information. I'm going to have her post some comments at the end of our show today. So that way, you know how you can find the information on her newest book. This is her second books. So she is an established author. Okay. So I just want to plug her because I'm very proud of her. In doing Radical Radio, we both have our own brands. We both have our own businesses that we're running. And, it's just amazing to be in business and be a partner with someone who, has goals and visions as well. So listen, y'all, I'm going to go ahead and get into the content. For those of you that don't know me, when I tell you that I went on, I would say a very detailed journey of healing, right? There were some things that I needed to heal from that I didn't really realize that I needed to heal from until I surrendered my life to God and I gave my life to God. And I'm going to tell you why I gave my life to God again, because I am a preacher's grandchild. I'm not a PK, I'm a preacher's grandchild. So I grew up in the church, right? I grew up going to church. I grew up, in what I would call was religion, right? I grew up religiously going to church, religiously, participating in the choir, religiously doing my Easter speeches, religiously going to Bible study and Baptist training union and all that stuff. I religiously went because, hey, this is what my parents told me to do. Right. So for those of you that, grew up in church, you knew that we didn't have a say so. When our parents said, get up and go to church, then that's what we did. Sometimes we would be in church on Sundays 3 times. Growing up, my grandfather had a morning service and an evening service. And, lo and behold, if it was anniversary time or if it was, musical time, we would have 3 services. So growing up in church, you get used to doing things. So as a young girl, I knew what to do in church. I knew that when I saw someone standing up and praying, I knew that I needed to stand still and I needed to respect that man of God or woman of God was praying. I knew that, when we stand up for, offering, that we would say, bring ye off the tithes into the storehouse. There be meat in my house. Prove me not, y'all know what I'm talking about. So, we would say those things, and I learned those things out of repetition, right? Did I know what I was doing? No, because I was too young. Even though, I could have gotten an understanding. I don't want to make it seem like my parents didn't try to teach me or anything like that, but I got to be honest and I got to be transparent. When we went home, I didn't open up the Bible. We didn't sit down and, my parents didn't sit down and really, teach me about scripture and teach me about what scriptures meant. And, I had a children's Bible. And when I decided I wanted to read my children's Bible, I would, but I would only get an understanding when I would go to, Sunday school, and that was all really the understanding that I would get. So I say all that to say, I want to talk about how you can identify if you're a cycle breaker. And I want to go into this because I want to talk about being a cycle breaker of religion first. Okay. In this journey of healing that I endured, I had to ask myself some very hard questions. I realized that, there came a time in my life that after going to church and being in church, and being labeled the church girl, there came a time in my life where I didn't want to go to church no more. I didn't want to be labeled the church girl anymore. So when I saw an opportunity where I could break away from going to church every Sunday and going to, choir rehearsal every Thursday and going to Baptist training union every Monday, once I saw that out, I was out, right? So once I moved with my father, once my parents got, they separated, once I moved with my father, I didn't have to go to church every Sunday. So I broke away from that. Why do you think we break away from those things? I'm going to be honest here. And listen, I can't help it. If you don't like what I say, I can't help it. Don't take it up with me, take it up with God. But I have to be honest here because when I grew up in church, we saw so much, right? we witnessed our parents going to church every Sunday. We witnessed our parents, you know, singing in a choir, but we also saw the other side of our parents. We saw the other side of our parents partying on the weekend. We saw the other side of our parents drinking. We saw the other side of our parents smoking and, you know, doing whatever it was that they did, you know, to kick it and have fun. And it's kind of hard for you as a young child for your parents to tell you to do something, but then you look at them and you don't see them doing it. You start to look at them and you're like, well, you're not doing it. Well, you a hypocrite. You know what I'm saying? And in this journey of healing that I endured, you know, I had a son that called me a hypocrite. And I could not understand for the life of me why this young man, this little boy was calling me a hypocrite. And I'm like, this, you know, like you being disrespectful. But at the end of the day, he was calling me a hypocrite because I was telling him to do something that he didn't see me do. And a lot of times as children, being that our parents are our idols, you know, they're our idols. They're who we look up to. They're who we learn from. We get to that place where we like, yo, you telling me to do X, Y, Z, but you ain't doing it. So in the healing process, I had to look at why did I no longer want to be a part of a church? Because I saw so much growing up in the church. Like you would see adults, you know, fornicating and doing stuff that they didn't have no business doing as young adults. Man, we was in like Baptist training union talking about we got a boyfriend and we kissing. You know what I'm saying? It was just all wrong. But it was what the examples that we saw, we emulated those examples. So I want to talk about being a cycle breaker of religion, because there comes a time that you can't bank off of what you saw growing up. If you were raised in church, there comes a time where you can't bank on what you were raised on. You have to bank on the relationship that you have with God for yourself. You have to understand God for yourself. And it wasn't until I was, you know, older and I moved away from home that I was able to, what's up, Joseph? Thank you for joining us. It wasn't until I grew up and I moved away that I was able to go visit churches and make my own decision of what church I was going to attend and be a member of and learn for myself, you know, and that's called breaking a cycle. So as I began to break away in that way, you know, getting more in tune with my relationship with God and really being able to heal and do the work and understand that God had a plan for me within my relationship, I was able to allow God to reveal my purpose to me, right? And, you know, I say it all the time, you know, my purpose is to, you know, minister. My purpose is to, you know, coach. My purpose is to motivate, inspire, you know, those to come to Christ and, you know, inspire those to become the better version of themselves and inspire those that, you know, I declare are cycle breakers to break the cycle, right? So with that being said, once I identified my purpose, my mind shifted, y'all. Like, I started thinking about things, and I want to give y'all a couple of things here. So like basically with a cycle breaker, what tends to happen in this process is you discover, and in this discovery phase, you discover the unhelpful patterns that we are repeating in our own lives. It might be a repeating pattern of choosing avoidant partners or having your reality denied. What I mean by that is, say, for instance, like I started to understand that, you know, when it came down to me raising my kids, right? We started raising our kids the way that our parents was raised us. So, you know, once we had kids, I'm talking about my cousins and I, once we had kids, we would then have the car parties over our house and we would be drinking over our house and our kids would be coming to us and saying, Mom, can I get something to eat? And we'd be like, go back in the room with the kids. That was a cycle that we repeated because of what the example was. Right. So we started doing the same things. And I know for me, I can speak. I started making my kids go to church, but then my kids were seeing me live another way outside of church. So they would see me one way on Sunday, but then they would see me another way on Friday and Saturday. Right. So I repeated the cycle of what I seen growing up until I discovered that it was a dysfunctional cycle, right? So I made up my mind that, okay, something is wrong. I have to start paying attention to the things that, I have just grabbed onto because it was normal for me growing up. I had to make a decision that it was time for me to change my mind and try to do something different. So the first phase is to discover those things, right? The second phase is to heal. This is the phase where you take the time to get to the root of the issue, right? And I say this all the time, being radical is getting to the root cause of an issue and being able to peel back those layers so that you can heal and move forward, right? So in order for you to go through the phase of, removing dysfunctional and breaking generational cycles and things like that, you got to be able to get to the root of the problem. So it says to get to the root of the issue, rather than just addressing the symptoms, you will ask, what part of me is attracted to an avoidant person? Or how can I attend to and heal that part of me to break the cycle? So what do I need to do in order to break this cycle? So going back to, me continuing the pattern, I had to say to myself, okay, Ladina, it's time for you to be an example for your children. It's time for you to be a different example for your children. Now that you've discovered that this ain't quite right, you know what I'm saying? And this might not go the same way that it went for you. You discovered that it's not right. So you made a choice to say, I got to lead by example. So that means some things within me need to change, right? So that's the second part, the healing process. Third is growing from it. So as you heal, you start to change. You need new boundaries. So going back to stay in a child's place. Don't speak when you're not spoken to. Children need to, be over there when grown folks talking. All those things that I grew up with, I started to change my mindset. Like, they were stopping me from talking. They were stopping me from being able to express my feelings. So what I did was I then started allowing my kids to express their feelings. I started to listen to my kids, because a lot of times my kids was telling me like, Mom, you just don't listen. But it was just, I took the fundamentals of how I was raised and I brought them over to how I raised my children, which means that it was, something that I had to change. I had to switch it up. So this phase is expansive. It's expansive and it's exciting, but it's also scary because you have to get away from what you know as normal, right? So another thing I want to do is I want to tell y'all a little bit about, how to identify if you are someone in your family that is a cycle breaker, right? People that are cycle breakers disrupts the imprint of your family. So people that are cycle breakers, they ask questions. They want to know, you may be looked at as being nosy or you always trying to keep some mess going, but no, you just want to know for your own understanding so that you get the understanding once you've discovered that something's wrong so you can change it. You are the person that would want to be the catalyst for healing of your family. You're the one that want to kind of pull the rug back and sweep all the dust and all the lies and all the secrets and all that stuff from under the rug. You're that person. You recognize dysfunctional behavior in yourself first, and then you look to change it within yourself because you know that you have to do something different, right? You take time to understand why people in your family are the way they are. Because one thing that we always hear, oh, that's just how cuz is. She always been like that. That's just how she is. No, that's not okay. And cycle breakers are the ones that say, you know what? I'm tired of hearing that. I'm tired of hearing you say, oh, they just like that. You just got to deal with it. No, I don't have to deal with it. Why? Because I choose to grow above that. I choose to break that cycle. I don't want to be that person. So I don't have to deal with their dysfunction if I don't want to. And it's my choice, right? Another thing that a cycle breaker will recognize is coping mechanisms that are no longer helpful. Let's talk about smoking weed. I have said this out of my own mouth. My whole family, everybody in my family smoke weed, so I smoke weed, right? I just normalize the fact that we smoke weed and we smoke weed to cope with the problems that we got, right? Hey. I normalize that.
Hey.
I normalized that. I cannot normalize that anymore because listen, once I got delivered, I had to understand that I don't have to use weed. I don't need weed to deal with my problems. I have to feel my problems. I have to deal with my emotions, and I have to learn how to overcome those things without coping. Same thing with alcohol. I have to learn how to feel. I have to learn how to deal. I have to learn how to deal with my emotions without having to go get a drink. And I told my cousin this the other day. I said, listen, I remember you have a bad day. First thing I used to do is be like, oh, I had a bad day. Let me go give me a glass of wine. I have to sometimes still to this day stop myself and be like, okay, you just had a bad day. Deal with your problems. Deal with your emotions. Deal with how you feel about it. You don't need a glass of wine just because you had a bad day. You know what I'm saying? So if you're the cycle breaker in your family, like you just want to build healthier habits and you want to become the example of not doing the same thing that you've always known to do, right? Another thing of a cycle breaker is that you just want to know yourself outside of your family system. So a lot of times we get misconstrued. You know, family is, you don't have a choice, right? You don't have a choice in who your family is. You don't get to choose your family, right? But at some point in time, you want to be able to identify yourself just for yourself. You don't want to have to identify yourself based on the family that you are in, right? And then again, you just recognize unhealthy patterns and you choose not to repeat them, right? And I know this is like a taboo discussion. This is like a taboo conversation, but I'm gonna tell you right now, like I grew up not having these types of conversations, right? I grew up not being able to have these conversations because they weren't like conversations that you would have. So, you know, I just wanted to tap in on how you can identify if you're the cycle breaker, because there are elders in our family that sometimes, you know, they okay with keeping the secret. Sorry, gotta say it, not sorry. There's elders in our family with they're okay with the secrets just being secrets. But let me tell you how it affects somebody that is looking to break the cycle when it comes to medical issues, right? When there's secrets within the family of somebody having a medical condition and you not knowing that they have a medical condition, it can go through your whole line of your family and nobody ever know why y'all having a certain issue because somebody decided to keep it a secret. So when cycle breakers come through and they start asking questions and, you know, they hear y'all just always keeping up mess, or, you know, let's just leave, you know, what they say, let's just leave hurt dogs where they lie. No, let's just talk about it so that I can understand who I am. And it's not a fact of trying to keep up mess. In order for you to understand who you are and why you operate the way you operate, sometimes it means that you have to uncover some things within the family that you have been born into to get an understanding. And I need to normalize having healthy. I'm not talking about pointing the finger. I'm not talking about telling somebody what they did wrong and you know, beating somebody up. What I'm talking about is normalizing having healthy family discussions, right? Having healthy dialogue so that you feel comfortable when it comes time for asking questions. Like I've had the conversation with you know, my mom, and I've asked her, you know, like, how do you want to be buried? Like, what do you want me to do? You know what I'm saying? Those are very, very delicate conversations that people don't want to have, but they're necessary conversations. So why not have them? Right? So I want to give you some other examples of how to support yourself as a cycle breaker. And I'm going to tell you why. Because you almost become like a black sheep. Like, people don't like that you always trying to dig. They don't like it. And I'm telling you from experience, like, I've heard, my aunt has told me, like, just leave it alone. You know, and it's like, but why? Why do I just got to leave it alone? You know what I'm saying? So these are some things like how to support yourself as a cycle breaker. I'm sorry, y'all. You have to accept that you are different from your family of origin, and that's okay. What did I say before? You want to understand who you are outside of your family dynamic. So you have to just accept that I've shifted my mind. I'm growing to another dimension. I desire to do different. I desire to be a better example. So I'm different. I desire something different. You know, I don't desire to do the same things. And you have to be okay with that. You have to also remember that you're doing the healing work for your children and your children's children. That's what keeps me going, because I made mistakes. My parents made mistakes. Their parents made mistakes. Their parents made mistakes. Their parents made mistakes, all the way back to my ancestors that I've never been able to have the pleasure to meet. Parents make mistakes, right? But what I've done is I've learned from the mistakes that I made as a parent, and it's my goal to try to correct those mistakes that I made as a parent so that I don't make those same mistakes with my grandchildren. And then my grandchildren will have a different outlook of how I dealt with them so that they can deal with their children in a different way. So this is all based on what you want your legacy to look like going forward, okay? It's okay, in order to support yourself as a cycle breaker, to find a tribe outside of your family of origin. Again, this is not liked by many, but I always say I have a family outside of my family. And a lot of times I feel a lot more comfortable with my outside family than I feel with my inside family, if that makes sense. Because I didn't, I don't have those restraints. You know what I'm saying? So it's okay to understand that you can choose a family. You can choose people that are in your life that become family to you. I grew up with a village. So I grew up with people who were not blood related to me, but who are forever related to me. And that's okay. Okay. Find supportive people, therapists, teachers, etc. Build your tribe. You have the right to build your tribe of people that would push you as a cycle breaker, that would uplift you as a cycle breaker, that would motivate you as a cycle breaker, that it's okay for you to have shifted to a place of shifting your mindset, changing your mindset, not being the norm, and being different. Okay. Develop clear boundaries with your family. Hey, I no longer want to raise my kids like that. So you know how you decide that you want to raise your kids in a different way. So you don't want to, tell your children things like stay in a child's place. It's okay to be able to respectfully, right, tell your auntie or tell your dad or your mom or whatever, hey, I know that that's how y'all raise us, and that's fine. But I want to try something different with my kids. I want to try to give them the opportunity to speak freely. Right? You have that right. Like you don't have to raise your children the way that your parents raised you. If you find that something else may work better for you, you have that right. Okay. Don't expect anyone else to change. I had to learn from this, y'all, because it's almost like, when you come to Christ, you want everybody to come to Christ because you know how great it is and you know how amazing it is. So you want everybody to feel that joy and you want everybody to have that experience, right? So it's the same thing that when you grow and you elevate and your mind shifts and you begin to understand why you are the way you are and why you move the way you move, it's exciting and, it makes a lot of sense. So you want to pour that into your family and you want your family to understand, hey, this is what I did and this is how I healed. And I'm not in that place of, being unhealed anymore. Like I'm healed. I want you to be healed. Everybody ain't ready to heal like you. Everybody ain't ready to move like you. So you have to be okay with them not being ready. You can't force change on anybody. So that's another one. That's a big one. Develop empathy for yourself and your family. I hear a lot of people say, they just ghetto and I don't want to be ghetto. You was ghetto at one point in time too, so don't do them like that. You know what I'm saying? In this journey of healing and understanding that you are a cycle breaker, there are times where you're going to have to extend grace. You're going to have to understand that you weren't always like this. There was some dysfunction that you had too. And there's still probably some dysfunction that you have. So you have to extend grace. I still have some ways about me that aren't great. This is not to say I'm perfect. I'm far from perfect and would never profess that I was perfect. But I just know some things that I decided to change in my life, right? Keep a journal and remind yourself to align with your values, not those of your family, but your values. Give yourself permission to take a break from family or distance yourself if necessary. That's one thing that, I don't think a lot of people really understand, but just because they're family don't mean that you have to engage, right? There's been times where in my spirit, I didn't feel comfortable and I felt something odd and I didn't want to be around my family. So therefore, it's okay. Because I didn't feel good about it and I didn't want to do it. Or if I'm around my family and I start to feel something off, I'm out. I don't care to be around something that don't serve me. I don't care to be around something that don't feed me or do positive for me or feed my spirit. I just don't want to do it. So it's okay. Doesn't mean that I don't love my family. Doesn't mean that, I don't rock with my family. Don't mean that I'm mad at nobody. It just means, hey, this ain't working for me. Let me go ahead and get somewhere where, I will feel more comfortable. And that's all right. The last thing is to trust yourself. Trust yourself. Trust your feelings. Trust, that you're not doing anything wrong. Trust that. You ain't doing nothing wrong. You're just at a different place in your life. And there's some things that you desire that are different from what someone else desires. And that's all right. That's okay. But we need more cycle breakers because here's the thing. One thing that cycle breakers do is they do have a desire to help heal. So again, you don't have to force anybody to change, but as your family sees you evolve or see you change and see your mind shift, they may ask you, hey, how did you get what brought you here? Like, what happened to make you think like this? Or, what happened to make you shift like this? And you can share your story. Doesn't mean that that's going to be their story, but you can help to enlighten them. And you can share your story. It's no different than you sharing your testimony. Like, you're just sharing like, man, I knew that I wanted something different. I knew that I wanted, to do something different when it came to my kids. I knew that I had to shift some things because I wanted my grandkids to be okay. I have a grandbaby and, I desire to have my granddaughter in a different type of setting. I don't desire her to be around smoking and drinking. I don't desire that for her. Now, I can't tell her parents what to do, but I know when she's around me, I choose not to do certain things around her because I want her to see her granny in a different light. I want her to understand that when she come to her granny house, granny is going, Nana's going to make sure that I'm a little lady. Nana's going to make sure that, we have fun and that, I don't see nothing that I shouldn't be seeing that I would then be traumatized by later on. That's my role as her Nana. And nobody had to tell me to do that. I chose to do that. I don't like when people curse around my grandbaby because I just know when you're in a household and people cuss, then you gonna cuss. That was me. You hear cussing, you gonna cuss. If you don't never hear cussing, would you be more apt to cuss? Probably not. You know what I'm saying? But again, it comes down to it. It's a choice. So I made choices of how I want to move. I make choices on, how I want to run my household. I make choices on how I want to interact with my kids. I make choices how I want to interact with my family. I make the choice of what works for me that would be beneficial to my legacy that I'm going to leave with my children and their children and their children and their children. So it's okay. I encourage those that are cycle breakers to continue to break the cycle. And I'm going to tell you, I actually decided to talk about being a cycle breaker today because my baby boy just turned 21. And something dawned on me again, because it always does every time that my boys have a birthday. I had my boys at the age of 17, 19, and 21, right? So now my boys are 21, 23, and about to turn 25. So I waited until my baby boy reached 21 because their dad and I, we were 21 when we had him. Right. So to me, that's a milestone because we broke the cycle because none of our boys have children. So they could have had a child at 17. They could have had a child at 19. They could have had a child at 21. The cycle would not have been broken if they would have had children anytime, during those years. But because they did not, that means that that's one thing that I can declare. We broke the cycle. I don't have children that are teenage parents. Right now, I don't have children that have children out of wedlock. Not to say that they won't have children, but I'm just saying the ages that we were when we had them, they broke the cycle. And I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful that they not out here reckless, just, popping out kids because it's hard. And they saw how hard it was for me, so that's why I decided to, touch on being a cycle breaker, because I just believe it has a lasting impact on you and your legacy. It has a lasting impact on your family. It's something that you can actually talk about with your kids to let them know, hey, I made a decision that I wanted to break the cycle, and this is how we did it. So I encourage you, if you are a cycle breaker, to definitely keep on breaking the cycle and understand that there are, it's a process to all of this. It's a process to all of this. And I want you to be gentle with yourself. I want you to trust yourself. I want you to understand that, you have the right to make these decisions. You have the right to empower yourself and your children to change and shift. And it's all about shifting your mindset. So I'm off my soapbox, y'all. So Maxi, can you put in any information that you have about your upcoming book release so that the people can have it? Again, I want you guys to make sure that you stay in tune with us because February 14th, actually, I believe February 14th is a Monday, and Maxi will be on the show to promote her book. So please stay in tune with us. If you haven't already, please make sure that you get her first book. Maxi, can you go ahead and play the commercial for the first book? She gonna sound off.
Hey dreamers, in this life, nothing is promised to be perfect, but with a little hard work and support, we can make it all worth it. Hi, I'm Maxi, owner of Eleanor Maxwell. We're a business support company, specializing in admin support for businesses, show production, events, and more. And guess what? I just self-published my first book, All My Broken Crayons Still Color, available now on Amazon. So, Eleanor Maxwell, follow, like, subscribe, all social media platforms. Let us help you blow through whatever it is you're going through.
Listen, y'all, that's my cousin and my super producer. So y'all make sure that y'all tune in on February the 14th. It is called When Healing Hurt and Grieving Isn't Easy. It is a book about grieving and the loss of loved ones. And it's the way she puts it together, y'all just don't even know. She has a interview out on Instagram. So just follow Eleanor Maxwell, ELNORAMAXWELL, Eleanor Maxwell on Instagram, and you can find out everything that she has going on. But I definitely want you guys to support her. Again, if you need promotion for your business or anything, you definitely can reach out to radicalradio2019@gmail.com. If you are interested in being a guest on Radical Radio, please send us an email at radicalradio2019@gmail.com, and we would love to have you guys on. Again, just wanted to come by and, kick it with y'all for a minute and talk about, how you can identify you are a cycle breaker and what are some of the steps that you can support yourself as a cycle breaker. I love you guys. I will see you guys back on Monday, and this coming Wednesday, we'll be back with the North Chicago Think Tank. So I love you guys. Good night.